bonjour à toutes et à tous, bienvenue à Vidéopolis. Joyeux anniversaire!
No mics on.
Joyeux anniversaire, joyeux anniversaire, joyeux anniversaire.
You're making me blush. Thank you everyone. Good morning and welcome to Vidéopolis. We're thrilled to have you here with us today on our birthday. So today is our anniversary. This is the day where Disneyland Paris first opened officially to our guests. So that's why we're so thrilled to have you. Have you seen the flash mob? Yeah. How was it? Pretty impressive, indeed.
Alors le 12 avril 1992, Euro Disney ouvrait pour la première fois officiellement son parc ici en France. Aujourd'hui, 20 ans après, nous sommes ici pour célébrer 20 ans de magie et des millions de rêves qui sont devenus réalité pour tous les visiteurs qui sont venus ici d'Europe et du monde entier. Et c'est une occasion très spéciale parce qu'aujourd'hui nous avons avec nous l'ensemble de l'équipe globale ambassadeur Disney qui sont avec nous. On va les accueillir bien fort. Nous avons de Disneyland Resort, Tony Baxter and Imanineer.
From Walt Disney World Resort, Jennifer Mason and Norman Verschulta.
De Tokyo Disney Resort, Eriko Yokota.
And from Hong Kong Disneyland, Fion Lai.
Bienvenue, merci d'être avec nous aujourd'hui.
We're very happy to have them with us. But y'all came here for a purpose. So let's not wait no longer and introduce a legend of Walt Disney Imagineering, Mr. Tony Baxter.
I built my house in a shorter time than that, actually.
It's a very nice house.
Yeah, I like doing models. That's how I started here.
Bienvenue Tony. Alors nous sommes ici pour partager un peu ton expérience de la création de Disneyland Paris. We're here to share your experience in creating Disneyland Paris.
Fantastic.
And we have a few questions for you.
That's the hard part, huh?
Alors avant de parler de Disneyland Paris, est-ce que tu pourrais nous en dire un peu plus sur Walt Disney Imagineering? Car beaucoup de personnes nous demandent, mais comment devient-on un Imagineer? So before focusing on Disneyland Paris, can you tell us something more about Walt Disney Imagineering? Many people want to know how you become an Imagineer.
Well, you know, Walt Disney began as an artist, and animation was his art. And he surrounded himself with amazing people that created that art. And then as it developed and it became more sophisticated, there was a lot of engineering involved, sound and color and multi-plane cameras, and he built an engineering department. And I think the interesting thing about Imagineering, if you look at the word Imagineering, it's imagination, which is the arts, and it's engineering, which is the sciences and the technologies. And so we have a staff of over 1,000 people, 2,000 people, all around the world. There's an Imagineering in Switzerland, there's one here at Disneyland Paris, Florida, and of course California in Tokyo. And what we do is put artists together with engineers. And the net result is all the amazing things that you see that not only are fun to do, but they work, at least most of the time.
Donc Tony disait qu'effectivement Walt Disney, quand il a voulu créer son premier parc, il s'est entouré d'une série d'artistes qui ont commencé à développer les premières idées pour ce parc à thème. Ensuite, avec l'arrivée de nouvelles technologies, les ingénieurs ont rejoint l'équipe qui est aujourd'hui l'équipe de Walt Disney Imagineering. Une équipe de plus de 1000 personnes qu'on retrouve dans le monde entier, bien sûr dans tous les parcs Disney, mais aussi même en Suisse. Et aujourd'hui, cette équipe est là pour réaliser tout ce que vous voyez dans nos parcs tous les jours. Donc c'est grâce à eux que la magie prend vie dans nos parcs à thème.
So before you took on the role of executive producer for Disneyland Paris, you already had a bit of Imagineering background. Could you tell us about the great project you tackled?
I got to play for a few years, before tackling this project. Probably a lot of you know and enjoy these attractions. The first was Big Thunder Mountain, which was designed. It was designed for Walt Disney World, but we built it first at Disneyland. But the best one of all is here in Paris. You all know what it does. It goes under the river and back under the river on the end, and it is totally awesome. So then it was, we had Star Tours. One of my favorite moments of my career, and we got to relive it again here in Disneyland Paris, was creating a wonderful trip into outer space, into a galaxy far, far away with Jedi Knights and all of that. And if you've been to our other parks, and I'm sure this will come here to Disneyland Paris in the future, the new version is outstanding. So Star Tours was a fantastic opportunity. And then, of course, that led to the one that topped that, which is Indiana Jones, the Disneyland version, which is the Temple of the Forbidden Eye. And also we have the one here, which is Temple of Peril, right? There's so many, I forget them. But again, wonderful experience. You just don't know what it's like to be sitting in a movie theater, seeing a movie like Indiana Jones back in 1980, when there was no technology to build it. And I looked at Skip Lang, who was my partner on that, and I said, wouldn't it be incredible if that was our movie and we could do that attraction? So 10, 15 years later, to actually have that happen was amazing. So those are a few of then there was Fantasyland, which pretty much we duplicated here. The Disneyland Fantasyland looks very, very similar to Fantasyland here at Disneyland, except your castle is spectacular.
Thank you.
You're going to have to translate for a half an hour.
I will try to translate. Donc, parmi les nombreux projets sur lesquels Tony a eu l'occasion de travailler, on a eu bien sûr Big Thunder Mountain, qui à l'origine était prévu pour Walt Disney World, mais qui a été construit d'abord à Disneyland Resort. Ensuite, on a eu Star Tours parmi les projets, donc il a apprécié de le refaire ici dans sa version d'origine. Peut-être qu'un jour, on aura la nouvelle version ici à Disneyland Paris aussi. Pour ceux qui n'ont pas eu l'occasion de le faire, c'est phénoménal. Et après, parmi les autres projets, on a Indiana Jones Adventure pour Disneyland Resort. Une très très belle attraction. Et justement, il avait vu le film Indiana Jones au moment de sa sortie dans les années 80 et il s'était demandé qu'est-ce que ça pouvait être que de raconter ces histoires. Donc pouvoir le faire 15 ans plus tard, c'était quelque chose d'assez incroyable. Et aussi, you didn't talk about Splash Mountain.
Splash Mountain, I didn't know. Any of you know about Song of the South, the movie? Yeah. We did a ride in California. Yeah, I know they know. Well, the song Zippity-Doo-Dah, that's from that movie, which not very many people get to see. And we made a fantastic attraction in both Disney. Well, actually, the best one is in Tokyo. Yeah. There's very good ones in Walt Disney World and Disneyland in California.
Bien sûr aussi, Tony s'est occupé de Splash Mountain. Et on n'a pas parlé aussi de Fantasyland, comme il a été reconçu à Disneyland Resort. Et on a Fantasyland qui ressemble beaucoup à ça aujourd'hui à Disneyland Paris, sauf que notre château est bien sûr le meilleur, comme il l'a dit.
Alors Tony, on voulait savoir, quand on t'a annoncé à l'époque que vous allez construire ce qui allait être appelé Euro Disney et que tu étais en charge de ce projet, qu'est-ce que ça fait d'avoir une responsabilité pareille? So when they announced they were going to create what was at that time called Euro Disney, and that you were in charge of this project, how did you feel?
Well, it wasn't like a question of being in charge, because you could never do this alone. I knew I had 5 friends, mon amis, that really, really steeped in everything that's special about Disney. We all grew up with Disneyland in California. And yes, rode my bike there, paid $2 to get in, $2, yeah. And so we grew up with it. We knew what it was like to be a child at Disneyland. And you know, as good as all the people I worked with from Walt's era, they were older, they were adults when they built Disneyland. They never experienced what it was like to be 8 years old and go through the doors to a Magic Kingdom. So all of us knew how to make it right. So there was tremendous confidence. It wasn't like being in charge of something. It was more like, wow, we get one more chance to do this. We know all the things that work at Disneyland. We know all the things that work at Walt Disney World. We know all the things that work in Tokyo. Let's make the most beautiful Disney park ever. And I still believe it is. That being said, Disneyland is still the most charming. Walt Disney World is the most spectacular. So there's a reason to go to all of the parks. And Tokyo Disney Sea is amazing.
Donc Tony dit c'est pas vraiment une responsabilité que d'être en charge de ce projet, c'était vraiment un travail d'équipe. Tous les 5 collègues qui ont collaboré sur ce projet avaient grandi avec Disneyland. À l'époque, ils payaient $2 pour entrer dans le parc. Ils avaient tous grandi avec Disneyland, ils connaissaient Walt Disney World, donc il y avait vraiment une connaissance du produit.
Let's see how Eddie saw it. Everyone else is gone, you know.
Vous venez de voir effectivement la fenêtre.
Tom Morris is still here.
Tom Morris is still here.
Yeah.
Donc vous avez vu la fenêtre que vous connaissez certainement sur Main Street, qui rend hommage aux 5 directeurs artistiques du parc Disneyland. Et justement, Chris travaille encore pour Disney Imagineering et maintenant travaille sur un projet à Fantasyland sur Neo Park America.
On parlait de la conception du parc. Comment est-ce qu'on s'est adapté au public européen qui n'était pas très familier avec les parcs Disney à l'époque? So, how did you take an American concept and adapt it to European audiences and make it relevant for them since they didn't have the Disney park experience before?
Well, it started with a wonderful trip through Europe. We started all the way up in England. We went through Denmark, of course Germany, and we visited not just amusement parks, but all the great sites that people travel to and aspire to see. And I would go to bookshops in small communities, so not in the center of tourists, but like, what do people think about the rest of the world? What are the exciting things? You look at coffee table books and find out what sells and what are people interested in. Out of that, it sort of began to direct the attention. So Frontierland was fairly easy, and I just realized this is going to be 3 hours long, and you're going to have to translate. Frontierland was easy because the French and the Europeans are very interested and intrigued about the American West. Shall I stop and we'll break it into...
Thank you.
There were a lot of theme parks that copied the original Jungle Cruise at Disneyland. In fact, one I remember had Viking boats going past the guys that were going up the pole with the rhinoceros, Vikings, I don't know. So we decided not to do that, and we rethought Adventureland, which became more of an Arabian Nights fantasy because Babar the elephant, various stories like Aladdin were very popular here in the same way that the fairy tales of France and Germany were popular to the Americans, so there was a shift.
Pour Adventureland, en fait, ils ont décidé de prendre un autre concept que celui qui était abordé jusqu'à présent pour ce land, puisqu'on a beaucoup l'attraction Jungle Cruise qui se retrouve dans tous les différents Adventureland. Ici, on a voulu partir plus sur un concept 1001 nuits qui transportait beaucoup plus l'imaginaire des Européens. Donc c'est pour ça que toute l'entrée est complètement différente et raconte d'autres histoires qui ont plus de sens pour la culture européenne.
And sometimes things are very magical for us. We decided pirates would be very exciting in the European culture, as they are in America. So we built a whole island based on Pirates of the Caribbean and strengthened the pirate ride by adding fighting pirates, as you see here. Which, of course, how did we know that 15 years later, of course, pirates were going to be a huge franchise for the Disney company. So it was fortuitous that we made that decision to make pirates a big part of Adventureland.
Et bien sûr, à Adventureland, on retrouve aussi toutes les histoires des pirates Et c'est quelque chose qui fascine beaucoup les Français, et les Français corsaires aussi, donc forcément ça fait partie de notre culture. Donc c'est pour ça qu'on a développé toute cette partie-là avec Adventure Isle, Pirates des Caraïbes. Et on voit que 15 ans plus tard, qu'ils savaient que Pirates des Caraïbes deviendrait cette grande franchise au cinéma. Donc là aussi on voit qu'il y a toujours de l'intérêt pour ça.
The big question for, the Fantasyland was, of course, the castle, and I'm sure we'll have a question about that, but there was a big attempt to move away from California. It has a lot common with Neuschwanstein. Am I putting it in the wrong place? Yes. On the chin, okay. Neuschwanstein, which is in Bavaria, and you can see a lot of that in the Disneyland castle. Florida and Tokyo have a lot, Hong Kong and Disneyland have a lot to do with Neuschwanstein. Florida and Tokyo have a lot to do with the Loire Valley and the castles down along right here about 100 miles away. So we decided to go much more to the fairy tales and the storybooks, and in particular the artwork designed by Ivan Earl, a great Disney artist. And I was greatly influenced by the unicorn tapestries, which if you have time, those of you who are touring, be sure and go to the Musée de Cluny in Paris to see them. They're beautiful. Here we are in Discoveryland. Part of the contract that we signed with the government in France was to develop an area based on celebrating European culture. And so when you look at Space Mountain, that is directly from the Jules Verne story, From Earth to Moon. Of course, the Nautilus is also Jules Verne. The Orbitron out here could be from Leonardo da Vinci, but these are the type of visionaries that really inspired the whole world to go into space, to do the things of the future. And so we thought, what a natural fit that, all the dreams that have been spun around the world really emanated from the European stories. So that's what Discoveryland is about.
Et pour Discoveryland,
les 5 directeurs artistiques qui ont créé les différents lands du parc Disneyland. Est-ce que tu pourrais nous en dire un peu plus sur votre collaboration? We talked a bit about the creative designers of the 5 lands of the Disneyland Park. Can you tell us how you worked together to make this dream come true?
Well, as I said, we were close friends. Tom Morris, who is in Fantasyland, came to me when he was in high school, and he wanted to write a report on an Imagineer. And, as he went through college, he came on board and we worked together on many projects. And I think he was typical of what my relationship was with Jeff Burke and Tim Delaney and everyone else. I knew their specialties. Tim is absolutely a genius at doing futuristic, imaginative art. Tom loves fairy tales. Chris loved adventures. And if you look at Jeff Burke, he is a cowboy. There he is. Hear us talking about casting in the theme parks. But I think the most important casting we do is at Imagineering. And each one of these people was absolutely perfect for the area they were doing. So that made my job very easy.
Alors on parle souvent du casting, du recrutement de nos cast members, mais c'est vrai qu'une mission très très importante, c'est de recruter les bons Imagineers pour réaliser les différentes aventures de nos parcs. Et Tony est vraiment persuadé que le recrutement de ces 5 directeurs artistiques était très réussi et ça lui a facilité la tâche pour réaliser notre parc.
So, when it came to building this project, did you encounter any challenges or problems that you might have to solve? Est-ce que tu as rencontré des problèmes, des challenges quand vous avez commencé ce projet ambitieux?
You'll say, Trey showed, I guess. Freezing cold. And it was so bad that we'd have to put up plastic and put heaters inside to keep the spray paint from turning to snow instead of, landing on the rocks. So that was very challenging.
Les températures si douces de la région. Et notamment, il a fallu recouvrir, s'assurer qu'il y avait beaucoup de protection avec beaucoup de chauffage pour éviter que la peinture qui était projetée sur les murs ne se gèle avant d'avoir été mise sur le mur.
And midway through the construction, we had partnered with a English firm to manage the project. And it was so difficult, so Disney, and not normal in a project that they would be used to, like hospitals and hotels, that we had to take the management of the project back and create our own staff right in the middle of construction. And I think that our management group at Imagineering did an incredible job of that switchover midway through the project.
Il y avait une équipe anglaise, une société anglaise qui s'occupait de la construction du projet, qui avait été engagée par Walt Disney Imagineering. Seulement, en plein milieu du chantier, cette société qui n'était pas habituée à ce type de divertissement, à ce type de construction, était un peu perdue. Ils avaient plus l'habitude de construire des hôpitaux, des bâtiments utilitaires. Et donc du coup, Imagineering a repris le projet en plein cours de construction. Ils ont créé une cellule détachée pour s'occuper de la construction du parc. Et ça s'est plutôt bien passé.
And we had the same amount of money as Tokyo did to build that park. And so the challenge for each of our designers was to find a way to get more of that money out in the area where the guests could enjoy it. And I think they did a fantastic job. In Tokyo, you'll find that the street is covered, and that cost a lot. We were able to put the arcades, and if you haven't walked through them, they're beautiful, behind Main Street. They were a lot less money. And then with the remainder, we put more beautiful details into Main Street, which is your favorite area.
Thank you.
Donc tu avais aussi dit que le parc Disneyland était le plus beau parc Disney créé. Tu l'as réitéré il y a quelques instants. Pourquoi penses-tu cela? So way back then you said that the Disneyland Park was one of the most beautiful parks in the world. You just repeated that a few minutes ago. Why?
Well, it's a combination of things. I think the climate, which can be harsh, also allows you to grow things that we can't grow in California or Florida. So as you walk through the park, especially right now in the springtime, it's spectacular. The landscaping is spectacular. Our forests, our hardwood forests in Frontierland, are more beautiful than California or Florida, and it's the youngest forest, but it already looks just spectacular. So I think landscape has a big part about it. And then what I just shared with you about Main Street, that example, we everywhere in every land we thought that way. So for instance, in California, the Astrojets were up high in the air, in Florida too. And we put them on the ground here, which gave us the extra money to do all the beautiful ornaments on it. So it became a very gorgeous sculpture. And so those kind of ways of thinking about the whole park were very important to make it far more spectacular, because we are right next to the most beautiful city in the world, Paris. So we had to live up to that.
Alors encore une fois, le climat de la région n'étant pas toujours clément, ceci dit, ça aura permis d'autres avantages, comme par exemple la végétation, qui peut pousser de façon plus originale par rapport au parc qu'on connaît aux États-Unis. Donc ça rend certains endroits de notre parc, comme Frontierland notamment, beaucoup plus intéressants, beaucoup plus immersifs pour l'expérience de nos visiteurs. Et comme on disait tout à l'heure, par rapport à Main Street USA, il restait beaucoup d'argent pour travailler sur le détail. Et c'est vraiment cette attention au détail qui a fait la différence du parc Disneyland, car ils ont pu vraiment investir sur des décorations, des sculptures qui viennent adorner maintenant Main Street USA. Et après tout, nous sommes à côté de la plus belle ville du monde, Paris, donc il fallait que notre parc soit quelque part plus spectaculaire que les autres.
Aujourd'hui, tu t'occupes de Disneyland Park en Californie, et justement après avoir créé Disneyland Paris, qu'est-ce que ça fait de s'occuper du lieu où tout a commencé? So today you're in charge of Disneyland Park in California, and after having created Disneyland Park here in Paris, how does it feel to go back to the one that started all?
Well, you know, I think, and I missed talking about Hong Kong, but it shares a lot with Disneyland. Hong Kong and Disneyland in California are built the same, and they both are, like I say, very charming. They're both, Disneyland is the only park that Walt Disney ever saw, which is amazing considering all that we've done, and we still think of him. But I grew up with Disneyland, so it's my backyard. And to get to play in your backyard is the best thing a kid could ever do, you know?
Given out through Facebook fans. So we've gathered some of these questions around, and we have selected a few. and that will be told by our Disney ambassadors here. So, folks.
All right. I think I'll move down here then. Okay.
So, a Disney fan from Belgium, Alexander, asked, back in the 1960s, you had the opportunity to meet Walt Disney. Can you tell us about the experience?
Okay, I was...
I'm going to translate, if anyone is surprised. Ouais. C'est Alexandre de Belgique qui posait la question dans les années 60. Tu as pu rencontrer Walt Disney. Qu'est-ce que tu peux nous dire sur Walt?
How about German? German. I forgot the question. Okay.
So back in the
60s, yes, I did have the opportunity to meet Walt Disney. I was working at Disneyland as an ice cream vendor, scooping ice cream. And Walt would come every Friday after work, and he would stay in an apartment over the fire station on Main Street. And on Saturday morning, that was his fun time. He would get one of the cars on Main Street fired up, and he would drive all around the park, and he would visit various areas. And I never thought that he would come to a humble little ice cream stand, but the word went out that he was coming, and so we had to work very hard to clean the area up. And then I saw him moving towards me, and I had all these ideas I wanted to share with him. I was going to tell him all these things that we could do, and I wanted to be a part of it. And then I felt his hand on my shoulder, and he said, well, how are things going with you here? And I said, just fine. Missed opportunity.
Alors Tony avait commencé comme cast member dans la restauration. Il servait de la glace dans les parcs. Et Walt Disney avait l'habitude d'être dans son appartement à Disneyland, au-dessus de la caserne des pompiers, à l'intérieur du parc. Et le samedi, il aimait bien prendre un des véhicules de Main Street, faire le tour du parc, aller à la rencontre des visiteurs et des cast members. Et un jour, on savait que Walt Disney allait arriver, qu'il allait côtoyer certains cast members. Tony était très content de le rencontrer. Il avait tellement de choses à partager avec lui, tellement d'idées à lui fournir. Et tout à coup, Walt Disney est arrivé, il lui a mis la main sur l'épaule, il lui a dit « Alors, comment vas-tu aujourd'hui? Qu'est-ce qui se passe ?» Et il a juste pu répondre « Ça va ».
My sister got to ride Small World with him, though. She was younger, she was 12, and when I would come to work, she would come in and I'd sign her in on my card. And so she went, she saw him going to Small World, and she said, "Can I ride it with you?" He said, "Of course you can." And she and her girlfriend, one on either side, went through, and then at the end, he said, "You want to go again?" And they said, "Of course." And he said, "But you have to sing. This time you're going to have to sing." So they sang the song, and then he gave them a picture and an autograph and tickets. So she still has those to this day.
I'm officially jealous.
I am too.
Me too, actually. Donc la sœur de Tony a pu rencontrer Walt Disney, ils ont fait ensemble l'attraction It's a Small World. Donc il avait vu à l'attraction, il lui a demandé est-ce que je vais faire l'attraction avec vous. Donc, bien sûr Walt Disney il a accepté, il avait Walt, sa sœur et une copine de sa sœur. Ils ont fait l'attraction une fois et à la fin Walt Disney a demandé est-ce que vous voulez le refaire. Donc bien sûr, donc ils l'ont refait et Walt leur a dit par contre cette fois-ci il va falloir chanter la chanson dans l'attraction. Donc ils ont tous chanté la chanson et à la fin du tour, Walt Disney leur a remis une photo avec un autographe et des tickets pour le parc, que d'ailleurs ils gardent toujours un souvenir de Walt.
One more. I had to work. You could say that. You had to work at Disneyland, scooping ice cream. My sister went to the big football game on New Year's Day, and Walt was the Grand Marshal or the president that year of the bowl game. So she went down, she's 12 years old, she says, "My brother had to work at Disneyland and couldn't come here to see the game today, so would you sign the program?" So I have a signed program saying, "Tony, I thank you for working at Disneyland, and I'm sorry you weren't here to see the football game today, Walt Disney."
Une fois, une anecdote sur sa sœur et Walt Disney. Walt Disney était invité pour participer à un grand match de foot très important. Et donc la sœur de Tony était présente. Tony n'a pas pu y aller parce qu'il devait travailler à Disneyland. Donc sa sœur a approché Walt Disney en lui disant voilà, mon frère n'a pas pu venir parce qu'il était sur Disneyland, il travaillait. Et du coup, Walt Disney a pris un des programmes et il avait signé en marquant merci de travailler à Disneyland. Excuse-moi si tu n'as pas pu venir à cause de ton travail. So we have another question.
Here's the questions from Edgar Aguilera. What was the best part of creating a Disney park in Europe? And how did you come up with the design of Sleeping Beauty Castle?
Quelle était la meilleure partie de la création du parc Disneyland et comment est-ce qu'on a eu l'idée du design du château?
The best part was getting to come to Europe. And I took holidays every weekend to go visit, the Alsace region, Germany, Mont Saint-Michel, London, Belgium, Holland. And it's all beautiful and it's all so different. Each country has its own culture and its charm. In terms of, do that one.
Donc déjà la meilleure partie c'était de pouvoir voyager et d'être.
I told a little bit about this. We were very concerned that if we replicated beautiful architecture, it would be taken poorly. So we convinced management to redesign the castle from scratch. We made it a little bit smaller than Walt Disney World, but it's not working again. A little bit smaller than Walt Disney World, but bigger than Disneyland and Hong Kong. And the most important thing, I think, was the shift in making it a fairy tale setting. In all of the other parks, the castle is sitting flat on the same level as Main Street. And we knew we wanted to try and create that image of a romantic French or German fairy tale where the castle is up on a hillside and the prince goes riding up to the princess in the castle and dragons live underneath it. So those were the things that kind of guided us. Ivan Earl, definitely the artist responsible for Walt Disney's Sleeping Beauty. You can see his influence in that. And again, as I mentioned, the beautiful unicorn tapestries. There's also a book of the hours by the Duc de Berry that is, I believe, up in Chantilly Castle. And the pages from that book were very inspirational, Ivan Earl in the beginning. So it looks French, but it's purely fairy tale.
This question is from Ellie on Facebook. According to you, what is the best example of the amazing attention to detail that went into the creation of this park?
Alors, quel est pour toi le meilleur exemple de l'attention au détail qui a été mise dans la création de Disneyland Paris?
Only one. I have to really, I love all the things inside the park, but the Disneyland Hotel was such a challenge for us, and there was no money to do it, and we had to convince Michael Eisner to get rid of one of the hotels out in the village and give us that funding to do this hotel. And everyone in the company said, people will be standing on the balconies in their underwear, they'll be hanging their clothes out to dry, they'll be bothered by the parades on Main Street. There were a million reasons why we shouldn't do it. And, but both Frank and Michael agreed that it was a beautiful design, and Eddie Sato worked very, very hard to incorporate that into Main Street. We shrunk the train station so that as you walk back down Main Street, the cafe, the hotel works as the icon at the end of the street in the same way that the train station does for our other parks. And those of you from the Disneyana Club, we had a meeting up there. Isn't that amazing, looking down the street? And it was the hardest thing because it had never been done before. And now, of course, there's one in Tokyo, and we have the Grand Californian in California, and the Miracosta in Tokyo, and it's become a Disney thing.
C'est dur d'en choisir un seul exemple, mais le plus pertinent sera certainement le Disneyland Hotel. À l'époque, c'était un vrai défi pour Tony et son équipe de réaliser un hôtel à l'entrée du parc. Ils avaient dû convaincre Michael Eisner de retirer un hôtel de Disney Village pour le placer à l'entrée du parc. Et il fallait surtout trouver le financement pour le construire. Et finalement, les inquiétudes étaient vraiment comment les guests allaient utiliser cet espace. Est-ce qu'ils n'allaient pas sortir sur le balcon en petite tenue ou mettre leur linge à sécher? Donc c'était un peu les inquiétudes des directeurs artistiques. Et finalement, l'idée avait vraiment séduit Michael et Frank. Et donc, ils ont réalisé cet hôtel. Et la technique utilisée aussi, c'était d'abaisser légèrement la hauteur de la gare de chemin de fer, de façon à ce que depuis l'hôtel, on puisse voir la perspective sur le château et sur Main Street USA. Et dans l'autre sens, depuis Main Street USA, l'hôtel devenait l'icône du parc quand on est en train de sortir, comme la gare du chemin de fer peut l'être sur d'autres parcs Disney. Et maintenant, c'est un concept qui a été repris sur d'autres parcs Disney dans le monde, comme on a par exemple à Tokyo Disney Resort avec le Miracosta ou le Grand Californian en Californie.
And the reason we built the hotel is we studied how people go to resorts and beautiful gardens and everything, and there's a great appreciation in the European community for the sense of arrival. And at Disneyland and even World, it's kind of, you're processed a lot before you get into the beauty of the parks. And if you go to the Versailles or the Tuileries or, down along the Loire to Chinoso, Chambord, it's a gorgeous experience of arriving. And I think it feels more like it's a gift to the people to come off of the RER trains and see the beauty of those gardens and the romance of the castle hotel before you go in. It's a very European approach to arriving somewhere. So again, we felt it was important to do it, to be comfortable in this environment.
Il y a eu bien sûr beaucoup de recherches qui ont été faites avant la création du parc. Et on s'était aperçu que dans la culture européenne, les visiteurs aimaient bien être surpris dès l'arrivée sur une destination. Donc toute l'importance de placer l'hôtel à l'entrée du parc, bien sûr avec la végétation qui décore nos Fantasy Gardens, c'est vraiment ce qui fait la beauté de notre destination. Une fois sorti de la gare RER, on peut déjà rentrer dans ce monde magique qui nous accueille avec la beauté des jardins et de l'hôtel qui devient l'icône du coup pour nous faire passer dans ce royaume.
Next, Tony, how are you? So Nikolai Bestek asks, Disneyland Paris is full of tributes and homages to the original Disneyland in Anaheim, like Pirate Galleon and Skull Rock. They are, of course, very big and obvious. What would you say is the most hidden or mostly overlooked tribute to the original Disneyland?
Alors, beaucoup d'hommages Disneyland original sont parsemés à travers le parc Disneyland. Certains sont vraiment très évidents, comme Galion Pirate ou Skull Rock. Et parmi tous ces détails, quel est le petit détail caché?
Well, you better get the people in the restaurants in Fantasyland ready for an onslaught. At Bellanotte Pizzeria in patio outdoors, there's a broken china, pattern of mosaics in there. When we put in Star Tours in California, we had to demolish a portion of Mary Blair's murals. The majority of them are still there, but a portion of that was destroyed. And Tom Morris picked up all the chips off the ground, and so as you look at that mural and pick out the very orange and very yellow pieces, those were the sun in Mary's mural.
Un très joli détail caché ici à Disneyland Paris. Tomorrowland à Disneyland avait de très beaux murs designés par Mary Blair qui ont malheureusement disparu. Certains sont quand même conservés derrière les façades, mais d'autres portions ont été détruites. Mais certaines pièces ont été récupérées, des petits morceaux. Et c'est ce qui décore aujourd'hui la terrasse du Bellanotte. Donc quand vous regardez toutes ces mosaïques que vous avez tout autour de vous, ça vient de Tomorrowland.
The other one is mine. In Disneyland, we had an exit sortie sign that was crooked or off-center because there was a beam. So instead of being directly over the door as you leave the Village House restaurant?
Yeah, it's L'Hôtel de la Marionnette.
Okay. As you leave the restaurant, whatever it is, there's a sortie sign. And it is perfect here in Paris. It's in the center. In Disneyland, it's over to the side, so I had them do a Figaro the cat pulling the sign in the right direction so that the cat and the sign balance. So when we went into the restaurant here and it was perfect, I said, well, what are we going to do? So we have a little Figaro the cat leaning on it going, got it right this time.
Donc là, c'est une anecdote qui se retrouve au chalet de la Marionnette. Pendant la construction du nouveau Fantasyland à Disneyland en Californie, il y avait le restaurant Village House qui a été construit, et au niveau de la sortie, les conduits électriques ont été mal placés, pas centrés, donc ce qui fait que le panneau de sortie n'est pas au milieu du mur. Donc pour compenser ça, ils ont décidé de dessiner et peindre un Figaro qui tire une corde pour donner l'impression qu'on est en train d'essayer de mettre le panneau au milieu. Mais ici, à Disneyland Paris, tout a été bien placé dès le début. Donc le panneau sortie est vraiment au milieu. Et pour faire un petit hommage à cette histoire, ils ont décidé de mettre un Figaro qui fait un hockey juste à côté. Donc la prochaine fois, au chalet de la marionnette, regardez la sortie.
Hi Tony. This question from Grand Nation. If you have the possibility to expand a land, which land would you be and why?
Alors, si j'avais la possibilité d'agrandir un des lands, lequel choisirais-tu et pourquoi?
Discoveryland. Okay. When you leave today, if you look over here in this area, you'll see two circles on the wall. Those used to be, they were actually installed, tubes that took you to Space Mountain. And all the attractions in Discoveryland were going to go into Space Mountain. And it was a vast covered land in there with the Nautilus below and the Space Mountain ride above, and tubes that took you off to each of the attractions. And unfortunately, yeah,
we can actually see that right there.
There's the tunnels. I'm not tall enough.
They're like glass tunnels right there.
They are connected. And that was how you were going to get to all of the attractions. And we weren't able to do that. We couldn't afford it. So I would love to come back now and spend some more effort and really complete this land. That would be great.
Alors, ça serait bien sûr Discoveryland. Quand vous sortez aujourd'hui des Vidéopolis, regardez sur la façade, vous verrez deux grands cercles. C'était censé être des conduits à l'origine qui devaient relier avec le Space Mountain, l'attraction. En fait, à travers ces conduits, les visiteurs auraient pu se déplacer dans toutes les attractions de Discoveryland. C'était vraiment pour donner cette impression d'un lieu couvert. Malheureusement, à l'époque, on n'a pas eu la possibilité et les finances pour réaliser cet effet. Donc si c'était à refaire, Tony aimerait bien agrandir ce land pour mettre en place cette idée de religion.
Tony, how are you?
Good.
This question is about one of my favorite attractions from Joris Royer. For 20 years, we've tried so hard to unveil the mysteries of Phantom Manor. And the whole fan base is torn between two possible explanations. There might be a third. First of all, Henry Ravenswood would be the Phantom, or the second option could be that the Phantom is a result of the curse surrounding Big Thunder Mountain. Any clues?
Was that your question?
It sure does look like.
Controversy.
Alors là, c'est une question pour l'attraction Phantom Manor qui, depuis 20 ans, se fait poser des questions à de nombreux fans. Il y a deux possibilités apparemment. Soit Monsieur Henry Ravenswood et le fantôme, que son esprit et le fantôme. Ou la deuxième possibilité, le fantôme est le résultat d'une malédiction qui planerait sur Thunder Mesa et sur surtout la montagne de Big Thunder Mountain.
You know, I'm going to be hung on this one. We'll tag team this so you don't go too far. There's probably 400 stories on this.
Il y a probablement 400 histoires autour de Phantom Manor.
I'm going to give you mine, okay? So this isn't official, it's mine.
C'est pas officiel, c'est sa version.
I love Charles Dickens' story, Great Expectations. Okay, do you know this story?
Livre de Charles Dickens. Je ne me rappelle plus traduction du titre. Great Expectations en anglais.
Mrs. Havisham. Who knows Mrs. Havisham? She is a bride who was jilted early in life, and she stayed in her mansion and grew older and older and older. And the rats came in and spider webs and everything. And that was the basis that I saw in it, but I wasn't the only voice in this.
Donc déjà, il y avait cette image de la fiancée qui était enfermée dans cette maison. qui commençait à devenir vieille avec les toiles d'araignée, les draps et tout ça qui pouvaient être collés autour.
So we see the young, beautiful daughter preparing for her marriage at the start. She's in the hall and all the guests are arriving.
Donc on retrouve la jeune fiancée qui se prépare, qui est prête à accueillir tout le monde à l'entrée.
She's very wealthy. This is her father's home. He made his money from the gold rush and the mines of Big Thunder.
Alors son père a fait fortune en exploitant la mine de Big Thunder, donc une maison très cossue.
And now she's waiting for her phantom bride, her groom.
Elle attend son fiancé.
Could be a bride too. She waits and waits and waits and gets older and older and older in the process.
Donc elle attend son fiancé qui ne vient pas, mais elle continue d'attendre et d'attendre et d'attendre et devient plus vieille.
When he finally comes at the end, it's too late, and the only place that the celebration can be is down under.
Quand il arrive finalement, il est peut-être trop tard, et la seule célébration qu'ils peuvent avoir, c'est 6 pieds sous terre.
So he invites us to descend down underneath the ground into the spirit world,
Alors il nous invite à le joindre dans le monde des esprits,
where all the residents of, Thunder Mesa have come to celebrate this long, long overdue marriage.
tous les habitants de Thunder Mesa sont venus pour célébrer ce mariage tant attendu.
And of course, she waves goodbye, throwing us the bouquet in the end there as we go by the mirrors in the end.
Et juste avant de nous quitter, elle jette son bouquet. Donc quand elle pointe la sortie et qu'elle est plus très...
That's my version. But
Et c'est sa version. Elle est jolie cette version, non? That's a very nice version. I think I'll really like that one.
what is special about Disney storytelling is you write the stories. If we script the whole thing and give you a book report of a movie that we've done, it's not as exciting as you going home and telling your family and friends about what you saw and the different things that happened. And it makes it very exciting to go on the attractions again. If it's the same old thing and scene, it's just like the movie, that's not any fun.
That's why 20 years after, they're still wondering.
And that's why people keep going.
Donc c'est ça aussi, c'est à vous de vous faire votre propre idée, votre propre histoire de cette attraction. C'est comme quand on va ton film, on en a tous sa propre interprétation. Et justement, si tout était devant nous dès le début, peut-être qu'on aurait moins envie d'y retourner et d'y retourner et d'y retourner.
And while the picture's up here, you can see again the importance of making it look or read visually. So instead of a sign to tell you that that's a haunted house, we created a look that looks haunted on it because of the multiple languages here. So it's really important to make it speak visually.
Et aussi, on a beaucoup utilisé le visuel pour communiquer avec les différents visiteurs de Disneyland Paris, puisqu'on est au milieu de l'Europe et tout le monde ne parle pas la même langue, mais au moins comprend visuellement ce que signifient les choses. Donc c'est pour ça qu'une maison hantée doit déjà montrer ce qu'elle est dès l'extérieur.
The great actor Vincent Price, by the way, here comes trivia. Vincent Price supplied the scream at the end of the elevator fall. He also did the complete narration, but we were warned against using it because they felt it was too American, even though it was in French. But I think hearing an American accent would have actually been good, and if you guys yell enough, maybe we could bring that back. It was the last thing that Vincent Price ever did.
And I'll be in charge. Et justement aussi, pour ceux qui ignorent peut-être, Vincent Price, l'acteur, a enregistré tout le spiel de l'attraction. Non seulement, pas simplement le rire, comme on peut l'entendre à différents moments, et cette version existe aussi en français. Donc un jour peut-être, on verra.
And the other trivia thing is, the music was reorchestrated by a young man who's gone on to great fame and fortune by the name of John Debney, who now is doing major motion pictures. But we got him when he was just a kid, and it was a beautiful score.
Et c'est John Debney, qui a quand même une très grande carrière maintenant dans le monde du cinéma, qui s'est occupé de l'arrangement de Phantom Manor, qui a fait vraiment un très très beau travail sur cette attraction et qui mène une très grande carrière depuis. Thank you.
Tony.
Thank you,
Merci,
Tony.
merci beaucoup.
That's all the questions we have. Diane doesn't have anything to say. And we were thrilled to have him here today with us to share this special moment of our history. So thank you so much, Tony. Merci, Tony. Merci beaucoup pour votre anecdote. You are our master. And they do have a special message for all of you.
Greetings from California. Happy 20th anniversary!
法國巴黎迪士尼樂園20週年快樂 ！Happy 20th anniversary to Disneyland Paris from Hong Kong Disneyland.
Muchas gracias por invitarnos aquí y desde California. Feliz aniversario a todos ustedes aquí en París.
Congratulations for 20th anniversary from Tokyo Disney Resort.
And greetings from Walt Disney World. Happy anniversary from all of the cast members here in Florida coming to you. Thank you very much.
Und zum Schluss nochmal erneut herzlichen Glückwunsch von allen 64.000 Castmembern in Walt Disney World, Florida. Joyeux anniversaire!
Per gli italiani che sono qui oggi, buon compleanno Disneyland Paris, grazie a tutti per essere venuti e per la vostra passione, bon anniversaire à Disneyland Paris, merci d'être venus, merci pour votre passion envers notre destination. Alors Régis, on va se piquer.
And now we do have a special video to show you. All the cast members around the world gathered to wish you a happy birthday and wish Disneyland Paris a happy, happy birthday.
Tous les cast members du monde entier souhaitaient un bon anniversaire à Disneyland Paris. On va se quitter sur cette surprise.
Hello Paris, bonjour. Happy 20th anniversary from Tokyo Disney Resort.